Arielle Langston's day officially went to hell the second she dropped a bouquet of cream roses on the marble floor of the O'Connell corporate tower lobby. "Damn it," she muttered, crouching to gather the flowers before the elevator doors could shut without her. She barely managed to scoop the last thorny stem into the arrangement and jam her foot between the metal doors, just in time. Arielle was sweaty, frazzled, and late again. But this delivery had to be perfect. It was her third time in a week bringing flowers to the top floor, and her boss at the flower shop, Rita, had made it clear. No more screw-ups. Not when the client was him. The silver elevator rose smoothly, making her acutely aware of her reflection in the mirror-polished walls. Her ponytail was frizzy, and her uniform polo was wrinkled from bending over too many vases that morning. She looked nothing like the chic women who probably worked in offices like this. She reached the penthouse level, where the air felt colder, the silence heavier. The receptionist gave her a tight, polite smile. "Flowers for Mr. O'Connell," Arielle said, holding out the bouquet. The receptionist buzzed the inner office. "He's in. Go ahead." Arielle blinked. "You want me to bring them in myself?" he asked specifically. Arielle hesitated, then walked through the grand glass doors into an office that looked like it belonged in a movie floor-to-ceiling windows, dark wood, and sleek furniture. And sitting behind a massive desk, typing something with a grim intensity, was the man she'd only glimpsed from afar. Brayden O'Connell. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His jaw was sharp, his eyes piercing. Everything about him said power, wealth, control. He looked up, and for a second, those dark blue eyes locked on hers with such startling focus that she almost forgot how to breathe. "You're not the usual delivery girl," he said, standing. "I work for Rita's Flowers," she stammered, stepping forward. "They asked me to cover today." He walked around the desk, his gaze flicking to the bouquet. "Those are for a boardroom presentation downstairs. But they don't matter anymore." She frowned. "I don't understand." Brayden gave her the kind of smile that didn't belong in boardrooms. "I canceled the meeting. They're yours now." "What?" He took the flowers from her hands and set them on a side table, then looked back at her. "What's your name?" "Arielle Langston." He nodded slowly, like he was trying it out in his mind. "Arielle," he repeated, his voice lower. "Pretty name." She blinked. "You canceled a meeting and took these flowers for me?" "I did," he said simply. She gave a nervous laugh. "Why?" "I wanted to see what you'd do." What does that even mean?" Brayden leaned against the desk, crossing his arms. "You've brought flowers here 3 times this week. You're always rushing, always distracted. But you're the only person in this building who doesn't try to impress me." "Well, I didn't know you were you," she said, cheeks flushing. "I thought you were like a lawyer or something." He actually laughed at that. "I own this company."
"Oh."
Her voice was small.
"Right.
That makes sense." He studied her. "Where are you from?" "Brooklyn." "Born and raised." "Why?" "No reason."
He paused.
"Would you have dinner with me?" Her head snapped up. "Dinner?" "You know. Food conversation. Nothing fancy unless you want fancy." She stared at him. "You don't even know me." "I want to," he said. "And I'm not usually patient. I don't know.
I mean,
this is weird, right?" He stepped closer, his voice gentler now. "You walked into my office and made it feel like something was alive in here. I haven't felt that in a long time." Arielle swallowed. Her heart was pounding. "You barely even know me. Then let me change that." She looked at the bouquet on the table, then back at him. "Okay," she said finally. "But no suits and no 5-star restaurants. Just real food." He smiled, this time softer.
"Deal."
He picked her up that evening in a classic black car, sleek and understated. Not a limo, not a sports car.
Arielle appreciated that.
Still, the leather seats and quiet hum of the engine screamed wealth. "You clean up nice," he said as she slid in beside him. She rolled her eyes. "I didn't wear anything fancy. This is my 'I hope I don't spill food on myself' outfit." He grinned. "It's working." They drove to a small Italian place tucked into a side street in Soho, cozy, candlelit, and clearly a spot where Brayden was known. The hostess greeted him like an old friend and sat them in a private corner booth. "You do this often?" she asked, eyeing the space. "Not like this," he said. "Not with someone who makes me nervous." She raised a brow. "You're nervous?" "I run a company worth hundreds of millions," he said. "But this," he gestured between them, "this is harder." The dinner was easy. He asked about her work at the shop, her mom's health, her dreams of starting her own floral business one day. He didn't talk about money or power or brag about himself. He just listened. And when she told him about her love for flowers, how she memorized the meaning of each one, he asked questions like he actually cared. "You know," she said, swirling pasta on her fork, "roses don't always mean love. Cream ones mean charm." He leaned forward. "Then I guess I picked the right color." Her heart stuttered. After dinner, he walked her back to the car, then didn't start it. "I don't want to take you home yet," he said quietly. "You want coffee?" He shook his head. "I want to know what you're thinking." She looked at him, really looked. For all his polish and power, there was something lonely in his eyes. Something searching. "I'm thinking this is crazy. That I shouldn't be here." He nodded slowly. "But you are." "I am." He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You're something else, Arielle." And then quietly, carefully, he kissed her. It wasn't fireworks or chaos. It was warm, steady, grounding. When he pulled back, she whispered, "You canceled a meeting for this?" "I'd cancel 100. She laughed, shaking her head. "You're insane." "I might be," he said, "but I know one thing for sure."
What?
"You're blooming right in front of me. And I'm not going to let you slip away." Arielle's breath caught. She didn't know what this was or where it was going, but for the first time in a long time, she wanted to find out. Arielle didn't expect to see Brayden again, so soon, not after a kiss like that, not after a night that felt like something out of a dream. But 3 days after their dinner in Soho, a sleek black car pulled up in front of the flower shop just as she was locking up for the night. The driver stepped out and opened the back door without a word. Her heart stuttered. "I didn't agree to anything." The man gave a subtle nod toward the interior of the car. "He said you'd say that." Arielle hesitated. A part of her wanted to run. This was all happening too fast, too intensely, but another part, the reckless part that had leaned into that kiss and whispered yes when she should have said maybe, climbed in. Brayden was seated inside, relaxed in a dark dress shirt with the top buttons undone. No tie. His eyes lit up the second he saw her. "I didn't think you'd actually come," he said. "Neither did I," Arielle replied, pulling the seatbelt across her chest. "This feels a little like being kidnapped. If I were kidnapping you, we wouldn't be going to a jazz lounge." She turned to face him. "You listen to jazz?" "I invest in it," he replied. "There's a club in Tribeca I renovated last year. Tonight's the official reopening." "So, this is a business thing?"
No.
"This is a you and me thing. I just happen to own the place." The club was tucked between two brick buildings, its discreet entrance marked only by a narrow brass sign and a velvet rope. Inside, the space glowed golden, with curved leather booths, a live trio playing under low lights, and a bar polished to a mirror shine. Guests sipped champagne in tailored suits and designer dresses, but Brayden didn't even glance at them. His attention was entirely on her. "Why bring me here?" Arielle asked once they were seated in a booth near the stage. "Because you look like someone who sees the world in color," he said. "And this place is full of it." She leaned back, folding her arms. "You're trying really hard." "I'm not trying," he said. "I just know what I want. And What is it exactly that you think you want?
He didn't hesitate.
You. Heat bloomed in her chest, but she masked it with a dry laugh. You barely know me. I know you don't pretend. I know you work hard enough that your hands are calloused in places most women wouldn't allow. I know you're not impressed by this place, but you're still taking it in because you're curious. Arielle looked away, unsure how to respond. No one had ever observed her so closely. You don't have to say anything, he added quietly. I just wanted to be around you again. The music swelled, and for a while, they just listened. Arielle let the notes settle her nerves, let the rhythm distract from the way Brayden's presence seemed to pull her attention like a magnet. After the set ended, he offered his hand. Come with me. She gave him a look. Where? Upstairs. The mysterious upstairs of your private jazz club? Exactly. Against every ounce of logic, she followed. A narrow staircase led them to a mezzanine that overlooked the stage. It was empty except for a grand piano and a long velvet couch under a skylight. The city lights bled through the glass, casting silver over everything. This is beautiful, Arielle said, stepping into the space. No one else is allowed up here, Brayden murmured behind her. Of course not. I wanted you to see it first. She turned to him. Why me?
I told you, he said.
Because you make everything feel real. He sat at the piano and ran his fingers along the keys. I used to play. She blinked. You? The cold, calculated executive who cancels board meetings? He started a slow melody, his hands moving with a surprising gentleness. My mother taught me. She was a concert pianist before she got sick. Arielle's breath caught. She hadn't expected that. She died when I was 24, he continued without looking up. Left me the company and a whole lot of mess to clean up. I'm sorry, she said softly. He looked at her then, eyes darker now. You remind me of her in some ways. Arielle raised an eyebrow. Most women don't take that as a compliment. She was the strongest person I've ever known, he said. She never let anyone tell her how to live her life. And she loved fiercely, even when people didn't deserve it. He stopped playing. I don't usually talk about her. Why now? Because I don't want this to be surface level, he said. I know that's not what you're here for. She sat beside him, not touching, but close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. You're not what I expected. Disappointed. Confused, she said honestly. You're complicated. And I don't do complicated. His voice lowered. Then maybe I should show you how simple this could be. She looked at him, really looked. You don't get to decide that.
No, he said.
But I can ask you to try. The silence stretched between them until she broke it. Brayden, what do you actually want from me? He turned toward her. A chance. That's it. She stood. You're used to getting what you want. Not always, he said, standing with her. And not when it matters. Outside, the city pulsed with life, but Arielle couldn't feel any of it. Her mind was spinning. She didn't know how to navigate this world, his world. But when he opened the car door for her again, she stepped in without hesitation. As they drove through the city, she glanced at him. You said you don't do this often. I don't. Then why now? He looked at her, his expression unreadable. Because I've spent too long being numb. And you make me feel. She turned away before he could see the way those words hit her. The car pulled up to her apartment in Brooklyn. He didn't try to follow her out. He didn't even unbuckle. Good night, Arielle, he said. She paused on the sidewalk, heart racing. Don't send any more flowers to the office. He frowned. Why not? Because I want to keep seeing you. And I don't want it to be about bouquets or appearances. There was a beat of silence. Then he nodded. Understood. She walked away, resisting the urge to look back. Inside her apartment, the quiet felt too loud. She stared at the ceiling for hours, replaying everything: the music, the confession, the way he said her name like it meant something. She didn't know what this was yet. But for the first time in months, maybe years, she didn't feel like she was surviving. She felt like she was beginning. The sound of Arielle's sneakers against the terrazzo floor echoed far too loudly in the wide, sunlit corridor. She wasn't used to entering buildings like this, without a delivery in her hands. This time, there were no flowers. No excuse. Just an invitation. She paused in front of the same penthouse-level office she'd once stumbled into with a bouquet of cream roses and a racing heart. The receptionist gave her a glance, then a nod. "He's expecting you." "Go on in." Arielle stepped through the glass doors, and for a moment, the expanse of the office swallowed her whole. The skyline framed Brayden perfectly. He stood by the window, sleeves rolled to his forearms, phone at his ear, voice low and sharp in a way she'd never heard before. "I don't care what the board says. The acquisition's off if the numbers don't line up. I'm not risking the company's future because some old men want to play kingmaker." He ended the call with a flick of his thumb, then turned. His expression shifted instantly when he saw her, the tension draining from his jaw. "You came," he said. "You sent someone to drop off a key to your private elevator this morning. I wasn't sure if it was bold or insane." "Probably both," Brayden said. "I didn't want to wait until the weekend." "Why?" He crossed the room, stopping just short of touching her. "Because there's an event tonight. A foundation gala I helped organize. I want you there." "Me?" "Yes. I want you on my arm, in front of everyone who thinks they know me." Arielle folded her arms. "Sounds like a lot of pressure." "It's just a party, with billionaires, celebrities, and your board of directors. I don't exactly blend in with that crowd." "I don't want someone who blends in," he said. "I want someone real." She studied his face. "You're serious?" "Deadly." She hesitated. "I don't have a dress. Or shoes. Or whatever people wear to galas." "That's been handled." Her brows lifted. "Please tell me you didn't buy me a wardrobe." "I didn't," Brayden said. "I bought a boutique." She stared at him. "You bought an entire store?" "The owner was retiring anyway. I made an offer. It just happened to come with a private dressing suite and an appointment with a stylist who owes me a favor." "Brayden, you can say no, but I won't take back the boutique." Arielle looked down at her hands. "I'm not good at this. The glitz, the attention. I'm barely holding it together when it's just us." His voice softened. "Then we'll do it together." Later that afternoon, Arielle stood in a private dressing room lined with floor-to-ceiling mirrors, champagne velvet walls, and a view of Central Park. A seamstress adjusted the hem of the midnight blue gown that clung to her curves like a second skin. The stylist, a sharp-eyed woman named Margot, floated around her like a general preparing for battle. "No green," Arielle had said the moment she walked in. "Nothing flowery. Nothing that makes me look like a cupcake." Margot had grinned. "Then I've got just the thing." The dress shimmered subtly when she moved, the off-shoulder neckline framing her collarbones, the slit down her left thigh just enough to be daring without being desperate. When she stepped into the heels and looked at herself in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. "Is this really me?" she whispered. Margot stood behind her, arms crossed. "It's the version of you the world's about to meet." Brayden picked her up in a vintage Rolls-Royce, the kind of car that didn't just drive, it glided. He stepped out in a custom tuxedo, black with subtle satin trim, and when he saw her, his entire body went still. "You look like trouble," he said. "I feel like a fraud." He took her hand and kissed her knuckles. "You're more honest than anyone in that ballroom." The gala was held in the rooftop garden of the Langford Hotel, complete with crystal chandeliers, ivy-covered archways, and a string quartet playing something haunting. The guests were dressed like they'd walked out of a fashion editorial. Yet every time someone tried to draw Brayden into a conversation, his hand found hers. He didn't let go. Arielle tried to smile, tried to keep up with the small talk and the champagne flutes, but she could feel the stares. Whispers trailed behind her like perfume. Who is she? She's not from around here. Is Brayden finally serious about someone? She stepped away after an hour, needing air. She found a quiet terrace wrapped in fairy lights and leaned over the railing, the city sprawling endlessly beneath her. I was wondering how long you'd last, Brayden said behind her. This isn't my world. No, he agreed. But that's why I need you in it. She turned. You don't need me, Brayden.
You want me.
He stepped closer. You're right. I want you. I want to wake up with you beside me. I want to hear your voice when I walk into my office. I want to build something that isn't just numbers and power plays. Arielle's eyes searched his. Why me? Because you don't care about any of this, he said, gesturing to the glittering skyline. And that makes me care about it less. You always say the right thing. I'm saying the truth. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Arielle froze. Brayden, it's not what you think. He opened the box. Inside was a delicate diamond necklace, the stone set in a pattern that looked like a blooming vine. I had this made, he said. The design's based on a sketch she left behind at the flower shop. The one with the peonies and wild jasmine. It was on the back of a receipt.
She stared at it, stunned.
You kept that. You drew something beautiful without thinking anyone would notice. I noticed. He clipped the necklace around her neck, his fingers brushing her skin. You don't have to say anything.
Not now.
But I've never wanted anything more than I want to be the man who makes you feel like you belong. Arielle's voice was barely a whisper. I don't know how to be that person. Good, Brayden said. Because I don't want her. I want you. They returned to the ballroom just in time for the final toast. Brayden stood beside her, his hand at the small of her back, and when the MC raised a glass and thanked him for his contributions to the foundation, he didn't nod or smile. He looked down at Arielle. She looked back. And in that moment, the noise fell away. There were no spotlights, no billionaires, no whispered judgments. Just the two of them. Later, as the car rolled through the city, Arielle leaned her head against his shoulder. You still sure about all this? She asked. I've never been more sure. She closed her eyes. Then don't let me fall alone. Brayden laced their fingers together. I'll catch you every time. Arielle stood behind the counter of the flower shop, her fingers tangled in a piece of twine as she tied the final ribbon around a bouquet of ranunculus and white veronica. The storefront buzzed with quiet morning energy customers browsing, the bell above the door chiming every few minutes, but inside her chest, everything was still. Suspended. Brayden hadn't called in 2 days. Not that she expected him to. Not after the gala. Not after he'd placed that necklace around her neck like it was the answer to a question she hadn't even asked. He had said he would catch her, but now all she heard was silence. The shop's front door opened again, and Arielle didn't look up. She was too busy pretending she wasn't hoping aching that it might be him. Arielle Langston? The voice was unfamiliar, clipped and professional. She looked up to find a slender woman in her mid-50s, dressed in an impeccably cut gray pantsuit, holding a leather portfolio.
I'm Clarissa Kent,
Brayden's chief legal counsel. May I have a word? Arielle blinked. Here. Clarissa gestured toward the small employee lounge behind the workbench. It won't take long. Arielle led her through the swinging door, heart pounding. Clarissa laid the portfolio on the table and flipped it open with the kind of precision that made Arielle feel like she was about to be served a notice or worse. What is this? Brayden asked me to deliver these documents personally, Clarissa said. It's a full acquisition proposal. Arielle stared at the heading. For the flower shop?
Correct.
Rita informed him last week that she's preparing to retire. He's offering to purchase the property, the brand name, and all outstanding inventory. Under your name. Arielle's voice caught. Why would he do this? Clarissa closed the folder gently. He said you'd ask. He also said to tell you this isn't a gift. It's a foundation. He believes in what you build here. Arielle shook her head. This is too much. Then don't sign it, Clarissa said calmly. But I've worked with that man for 15 years. He doesn't do things lightly. If he drew up these papers, it's because he sees you as part of something permanent. Arielle didn't answer. She couldn't. Her hands trembled as she clutched the folder to her chest. When Clarissa left, the store felt different. Too small, too loud, too full of questions. She didn't call Brayden. Not that night. Not the next morning. But when the sun dipped behind the skyline, painting the sky in gold and violet, she found herself standing in front of the O'Connell Tower once again. The receptionist didn't blink this time. He's in his private wing. I'll let him know you're on your way. Arielle stepped into the elevator, her pulse a steady roar in her ears. The doors opened on the top floor, and she walked down the hall, past the executive offices, until she reached the double-glass doors of the private suite Brayden rarely used outside of closed negotiations. She pushed them open. He stood by the window, his back to her, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly disheveled in a way that said he'd been running his hands through it for hours. You sent your lawyer to buy me a business. He turned slowly. I sent my lawyer to give you a choice. Arielle dropped the folder onto the table. You should have asked me. I wanted to, but you disappeared. I needed time. I gave it to you. She crossed the room. You think throwing money at the world fixes things. It doesn't. I know, he said. But I also know what it's like to build something with your own hands and have it taken away. I won't let that happen to you. She stared at him, heart thudding. Why are you doing this? His voice dropped. Because I love you. The air shifted. Arielle's breath hitched. You can't just say that after 2 days of silence. I didn't call because I didn't want to pressure you, he said. But I haven't slept. I haven't eaten anything that didn't taste like cardboard. I keep hearing your voice when I walk into empty rooms. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. You don't fall in love that fast. I didn't, Brayden said. I fell the second you dropped a bouquet on my floor and told me I looked like a lawyer. Arielle's laugh cracked through her throat, half sob, half relief. You're impossible. I'm in love, he said, closing the distance between them. And I've never meant anything more in my life. She looked up at him, her fingers finding the lapel of his shirt. This is crazy. Yes, he whispered. It is. She kissed him fast, desperate, like the words weren't enough. When they broke apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. Marry me. Arielle froze. I'm not asking you now, he rushed to clarify. I'm not giving you a ring tonight. I'm just telling you I will. One day when you're ready. She closed her eyes. I don't know what I'm ready for. That's okay, he said. I'll wait. She pulled back, her hands still on his chest. You're going to make it hard, aren't you?
What?
Not falling for you. You already did, he said. You just haven't admitted it yet. Arielle exhaled a shaky laugh. You're relentless. I'm yours. She stepped away, picking up the folder from the table. So, if I sign this, the shop is mine? Every square inch. No strings. Only the one that ties you to me, he said softly. She raised an eyebrow. You really think I'm going to fall for that line? I'm hoping you already have. She signed the document. That night, they didn't go to a rooftop or a fancy restaurant or a private club. They went to her apartment in Brooklyn, where she made grilled cheese and tomato soup, and he sat at her tiny kitchen table like it was the most luxurious seat in the world. This is the best thing I've eaten in weeks, he said, licking tomato from his thumb. You lie with such conviction. I'm not lying, he said. I've had 3 Michelin-star meals this week and none of them tasted like this. She laughed, curling her legs beneath her on the chair. You're ridiculous. I'm happy. She looked at him. I don't know if I'm ready to say it yet. I'm not rushing you. But I want you to know, she added, voice softening, that I feel it. Whatever this is, it's growing. He reached across the table, lacing their fingers, then let it bloom. 3 weeks later, Arielle stood in the flower shop, hers now, with the morning sun flooding through the windows. The sign had been updated. Langston Florals. A subtle change, but hers all the same. Customers came and went. Orders built up. Life moved. And then, just after closing time, Brayden walked in. He didn't say anything. Just held out a small, velvet box. Arielle's heart stopped. You said you'd wait.
I did, he said.
But you left something behind at the gala. He opened the box. Inside, her necklace rested on a silk cushion. Except now, a small diamond ring hung beside it, strung on the same chain. This isn't a proposal, he said. It's a promise. I'll give it to you when you're ready. She looked at him, eyes shining. What if I'm ready now? He didn't move. Then take it. She reached for the chain, lifted it gently, and slid the ring off. Her fingers closed around it, the weight of it grounding her. I love you, she said. He smiled, something raw and unguarded. Say it again. I love you. He stepped forward as she placed the ring in his palm. Then let me do this right. He dropped to one knee, right there between the hydrangeas and the tulips. Arielle Langston, will you marry me? She didn't hesitate. Yes. He slid the ring onto her finger, then stood and kissed her like every answer in the world lived behind her lips. Outside, the city thudded on. Cars honked. People walked past the storefront, unaware of the moment blooming inside. But for Brayden and Arielle, it was enough. It was everything. A week after she said yes, Arielle found herself standing in the foyer of Brayden's penthouse, barefoot, holding a mug of coffee in one hand and a sketch pad in the other. The sun had barely risen, casting a soft amber glow over the sprawling city skyline beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. The silence was different here, expansive, intentional. It didn't press on her like it used to. It gave her space to breathe. Brayden was still asleep in the bedroom, his arm draped over the space where she'd been minutes earlier. She didn't want to wake him yet. He'd been working late every night finalizing the nonprofit he'd started in his mother's name, something he hadn't told the press about, not even to score points with the board. It wasn't for them. It was for her. Arielle sat on the velvet sofa and began sketching a new layout for Langston Floral's upcoming expansion. The storefront next door had opened up unexpectedly, and she'd signed the lease 2 days earlier. She hadn't told Brayden yet. She wanted to surprise him for once, bring him something he didn't already know was coming. She was still drawing when the scent of espresso drifted in from the kitchen. A moment later, Brayden appeared, barefoot and shirtless, hair tousled in a way that made her heart stumble. He held his own mug, watching her. You're up early, he said, voice still rough with sleep. I couldn't stay still. He sat beside her, glancing down at the sketchpad. What's this? Phase 2, she said, sliding the pad toward him.
I'm expanding.
Took the lease on the space next door. Brayden blinked once, then looked at her. You didn't say anything. I wanted to do it myself.
No lawyers. No accountants.
Just me and a pen. He smiled, not that polished, charming expression he used in boardrooms and fundraisers, but something slower, more rooted. You don't need my help. You never did. I never said I didn't need you, she said, setting her mug down. I just needed to do this part on my own. Brayden leaned in and kissed her, soft and lingering. I love that about you. Later that morning, they walked hand in hand through the nearly empty flower shop. The air still smelled of fresh eucalyptus and lavender oil, and in the back, boxes of new inventory waited to be shelved. Arielle had hired 2 assistants, a quiet teenager named Rima and a retired florist named Lucille, and the shop had become more than just a business. It had become a space people came to feel something. Brayden watched as she moved through the room, rattling off ideas for a community event. She wanted to host a flower arranging class for local women looking to start businesses of their own. She was in her element. "You should speak at the next foundation summit," he said, leaning against the counter.
She paused.
"Me? You've built something from the ground up. They need to hear that. I barely got through college. I don't have a resume that looks good on paper." He crossed the room and took her hand. "You have something better. You have proof." Arielle shook her head, laughing under her breath. "You really think I can inspire a room full of CEOs and investors?" "I don't think. I know." That weekend, they returned to Brooklyn not for a party or a ribbon cutting, but to visit the community garden where Arielle's mother used to volunteer before her health had declined. Arielle brought a bouquet of wildflowers from the shop, and together they planted a rose bush under the pergola. Brayden got dirt on his slacks and didn't complain. He didn't flinch when a bee landed near his elbow. He listened as Arielle told stories about her mother's love for irises, how she used to say flowers were God's way of reminding people to pay attention. "Do you think she'd like me?" he asked quietly when they were alone. Arielle looked at him, sunlight catching the lighter strands in his hair. "She'd ask why it took you so long to find me." He nodded, brushing a leaf from her shoulder. "Then I'd tell her I wasn't ready to deserve you before." They stayed in Brooklyn that night, curled up on the couch in Arielle's apartment. The building was old, the radiator hissing every few hours, but Brayden didn't suggest leaving. He reached for her hand and whispered that he loved the sound. "It's real," he said. "It reminds me of you." She turned toward him. "What happens now?" Brayden didn't hesitate. "Now we build something together." Arielle thought about it, what that meant. Not just flowers and leases, but a life. A shared future. One where neither of them had to shrink or sacrifice to make space for the other. And so they did. Over the next few months, the shop expanded, taking over the neighboring unit with a new design studio and a floral workshop space for private events. Arielle hosted her first class in early spring. Brayden sat in the back row, arms crossed, watching with the kind of pride that made her throat tighten. He never interrupted, never tried to take credit. He simply showed up. In late April, they traveled to Italy for a supplier meeting, Arielle's first international trip. Brayden wanted her to see the flower farms near Lake Como, to meet the growers who cultivated peonies with a kind of reverence most people reserved for art. They stayed in a villa overlooking the lake. One morning, Arielle woke to find the terrace covered in blooms, roses, camellias, wild poppies, all arranged in glass vases along the railing. Brayden stood in the center, holding a coffee in one hand and a plate of fresh croissants in the other. "You did this?" she asked, stepping outside in a linen robe. "I bribed the hotel florist," he admitted. "But I arranged the poppies myself." She kissed him before she could say anything else. That summer, Langston Florals was featured in a major lifestyle magazine. The article called Arielle a visionary rooted in authenticity, and even though she laughed at the phrasing, she framed the page and hung it behind the register. Brayden didn't say a word. He just took a photo of it on his phone when she wasn't looking and made it his lock screen. They didn't rush the wedding. There was no pressure, no countdown. Just quiet mornings, shared dinners, and late-night planning sessions where they talked about everything from honeymoon destinations to what kind of tree they wanted in the courtyard of the home they'd eventually buy. One evening in September, Brayden surprised her with a key not to another penthouse or property, but to a brownstone in Brooklyn. It had a small garden out back and a sunroom perfect for a reading nook. "I want roots," he said, "and I want them with you." Arielle stood in the doorway for a long time, taking it in. The creaky floors, the chipped banister, the light filtering through stained glass. It was perfect. "You didn't buy this for me," she said slowly. "You bought it for us." He nodded. "I want something that's ours from the start." They moved in a month later. No press, no announcement. Just a truck full of boxes, mismatched mugs, and a playlist they built together as they unpacked. One night, after hanging a photograph of her mother in the hallway, Arielle curled up next to Brayden on the living room sofa and whispered the things she hadn't said out loud yet. "I used to think love was something you had to earn." He turned toward her. "And now I know it's something you build." Brayden pressed a kiss to her forehead, brick by brick. They fell asleep like that, tangled together beneath a hand-knitted throw, the city humming outside. And when morning came, the first thing Arielle saw was the sunlight streaming through the windows, catching the engagement ring on her finger and scattering tiny rainbows across the floor. Their life wasn't perfect, but it was real, and it was theirs.